Hello there, I'm John Theunissen. I'm recently retired, or transitioning to retirement, and I'm very privileged to be part of the C4net ESP project. Coming out of school, I wasn't quite sure of which line of study or career to follow. The vocational tests I'd done indicated that I had a sort of a bias towards the math science sector. So I chose to do a BSc degree in electrical engineering. It wasn't, however, until my final year of study that I discovered the area that I was most interested in pursuing. We had an engaging lecture from industry. Strangely enough, he wasn't an academic. He was a practicing guy in the industry, but he was passionate about his career and particularly his subject matter. And he taught us about power system protection, and I felt attracted to it because I saw it as being at the intersection of multiple disciplines within the broader power system environment. One had to be intimately familiar with power system control, its operation, power system stability, but you also needed to know the various behaviors and characteristics of primary big power transformers, circuit breakers, and also the secondary plant, sort of current transformers, voltage transformers, those sort of within the power system. But then you also had to understand the sort of communication and instrumentation techniques that are applied in power systems. And so this intersection really drew me in of these various disciplines, because this was I saw this as being at the center, because you just had to know all that stuff. It's not often that you get an opportunity to carry out industry-led research that's holistic in nature and focused on the longer term. Industry research often tends to be targeted and somewhat siloed, so also being sort of focused on the nearer horizons, not something which is very far away. And look, we're living through a very exciting time in the power system industry, where there are large-scale transformations occurring in many of the industry sectors. And so there's a greater need for more integrated research activities, both short-term and longer-term. Addressing immediate challenges almost always takes priority, which I guess is understandable. However, if one can take a longer view, this is very valuable in shaping strategies and in also tempering those short-term actions, which ultimately should result in a better outcome for the industry, for the stakeholders, and for the customers which the industry serves. The last occurrence of just thinking back, the last occurrence where we had this kind of come together in a research sort of context was the Electricity Network Transformation Roadmap Initiative, which was led by CSIRO in 2016 and 2017. This was a great initiative, and it produced valuable outputs and learning. However, the scale of the renewable transformation hadn't fully manifested at that point, and there were still fairly significant factional positions that had been sort of adopted within the industry, which in a way probably impacted its continued relevance, not so much at the strategic level, but more at a granular level. Now, when we think about the ESP project excites me because it provides the same kind of integrated research opportunity at a time when government strategies are more mature. The disruptive technology application is already scaling, not just emerging, but it's scaling. And it's clear that a new techno-economic approach to managing the power system is going to be needed in future. And this just by nature requires greater integration of its parts and the interoperability that's required for it to succeed. My role within the project is to provide industry-centric technical advice and guidance to the research teams. Allied to that, it's also trying to help the research to deliver outputs in the most usable form, so that network businesses, the market operator and others in the sector can actually use and apply the outputs of the research. I've got to point out, as I said, it's a supporting role. I'm not a decision maker in the project, and I'm not tasked with any typical project governance activities, which I have to say I'm quite pleased about. So yeah. And my career has been in the field of power system protection, yeah, did you know that the first sophisticated protective relaying devices, obviously you had fuses and things like that, which were fairly simple devices, but the first sophisticated protective relaying devices were developed by watchmakers. So it was the first, it was the electromechanical age, and the creative use of springs, gears, rotating electromagnetic discs was a logical extension of watchmaking activities and skills. So that's kind of where, watchmakers gravitated, if you like, to this new industry, which is kind of it's an interesting fact. But I mean, just to add to that, through my career, I never ceased to be amazed at the innovative spirit that existed in our industry pioneers.